Well, hello. We have an exclusive update for one of our partners who's been working on the homeless issue here in California. Homelessness is conceivably one of the top parallel issues here in California. And the California people, according to every poll out there, feel that it's not being handled well. We were the only organization to get candidates to actually speak to the homeless people while they were doing something. And I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Hey. Sure. I just want to say I'm going to my personal Twitter account to the stream here. So when you're streaming your Sorry, busy day. Lots of phone calls, lots of people wanting to get a hold of Yes California. Appreciate it.
Wow.
We had scheduled this interview with you, and we've been working on this for 2 days. You helped us organize the event where we had 25% of all the candidates for the recall election attending debates, and then we invited them all to a Meet the Unhoused event in Lancaster. That was the only event where multiple candidates met with homeless people and actually expressed their plans on how to deal with the issue and actually receive feedback from the people who are dealing with the issue. Laquinta Reynolds was pivotal in being able to set that up. She's a lifelong Californian and my personal friend. Quinn, recently you saw the Lancaster police, I believe, tearing down the exact homeless camp that we had an event with, I believe, 5 governor candidates. Is that right?
Yes, they were. Actually, it wasn't the police tearing it down. It was code enforcement. It was the city.
Okay.
The police were on site. I interviewed a couple of the workers that were there, and they said that they usually have them there for their protection. Apparently, when they come to clean out the encampments, some of them get hostile, which you can imagine if someone's destroying your stuff, throwing out your stuff, they're defensive.
Yeah.
So it's really there. They were there for the safety of the city workers. So if anything got out of hand or, if it turned for the worse, that's what they were there for.
And so we posted a variety of videos at my personal channel, Marcus Ruiz Evans, on YouTube, where this video will also go. So when you watch this video, you can see the videos. They were taken by Ms. Reynolds on site the day of the event. We have a couple of videos showing the police nearby, people actively cleaning up the homeless encampment, but basically trashing all their stuff and removing it from the area. Yes. And then we have an interview with, I believe, one of the code enforcement officers explaining how everybody was notified ahead of time. But, the question is, how do you really notify people who, for lack of a better way of saying it, perhaps aren't as aware of current events as they should be? I mean, did they actually inform these people? Do you feel they actually informed these people ahead of time properly that this was going to happen? Or when you were talking to the homeless people there, did they seem to be caught off guard in shock?
The place where we had the event, I have seen notices on the gates where they did post notice, giving them notice to vacate the property at that location. Now, I can't speak for the one Tuesday morning. It's an open area, so he just told me that people came out and they informed them. So I know for sure all of them were not aware, because not all of them, they're all scattered. They spend their days in different areas and they come back there, to rest, or they move around. So a lot of them were not aware. They weren't aware until they showed up. Some of them were aware, but it was just, they were still distraught, because a lot of them just, were just nonchalantly just picking up stuff and throwing them away. Weren't even letting them, giving them time to, gather their things and then come in and clean it out. They were trashing stuff and they just went in there cleaning out, and people were just trying to get their stuff as they were cleaning out, out the encampment, which I thought was kind of prude, but just my opinion.
So Lancaster City ordered the homeless to be removed or have their camp torn down?
Well, he did tell me the process is it could be a person that calls in anonymous, a business. So there's a variety of different ways that they're notified. As far as that particular area, he couldn't disclose who made the call. I want to assume it was the business across the street from there, because they're not wanted there. but they're usually done anonymously. And at least that one I don't believe was because he couldn't disclose the name of who made the call for that encampment that they cleared out that day.
So, well, if we're going to go for that, then technically it could have been the mayor who called in disguised as
it could have been anybody.
Right? So we don't know. We have no idea who did this. I found it very interesting that this happened right after Newsom won the election. I found that,
and it's happening all around. They did Skid Row. Skid Row was bombarded. I don't know if you saw that link that I sent you about Skid Row. So yeah, it happened ironically and coincidentally not too long after the recall.
Yeah, and I remember during the recall, like the day before the recall, Gavin Newsom was seen at a place with a bunch of unhoused people, but he was clearing them out to make room for a rap video. So his solution to homelessness was to remove the homeless from the area so that a music video could be made. And that's not what Californians were talking about. Californians, according to every poll, have said that even if they do like the governor, 70% of Californians think the homeless issue has not been handled at all well. He's been in power for about a year and a half or two. So basically failing marks for that. And the day before the recall election, he decides to not house homeless people, but have them removed. Right after he wins the recall election, you witness housing camps being removed in Lancaster, and you also saw the one in LA. Now, we don't have a smoking gun tying the governor to these actions, but how coincidental that he had no achievement, wasted federal funds, increased the amount of homeless in COVID. That came out recently, and then removed homeless people. And right after he's elected, mysteriously, major homeless camps are cleaned out. Is this the plan for homelessness? If we don't see them, then the problem doesn't exist, or is there something more going on? We don't know. But we also know that the media does a horrible job on documenting these things. The news never came out to Lancaster, which was basically a well documented as having horrible conditions for the homeless and harassment. Media never came out there till we did that. Candidates never came out there. The governor never came out there. The governor never met with homeless people. Elders never did. So here's another thing where I'm wondering if, yes, California is going to be the only group to bring attention to real life issues for some reason when no one else can. What else?
You're the only ones doing it, so. But it's funny you not point that because Lancaster is labeled the poorest city in California, and we're a dumping ground for a lot of the homeless people, and that's a known fact. And the fact that like you said, the media, you would think that would be enough to bring more media out here to get more involved. Being that because this is just an open no man's land, and they're all just fleeing here or being dumped here. And no one's covering it other than the events that, we've done so far or the streams that you're doing to discuss it. But there's been no activity as far as awareness, them coming out here and trying to even force our mayor's hand to, get involved. He's been MIA, not discussing the crisis out here or even an action plan or how he feels or don't feel about it. But it definitely is getting worse by the day. Luckily, we're not in 115 degree temperature like we normally are.
Right.
But still bad. Still bad.
Have you talked to the homeless after they've been moved? Have they gone to?
I have. And actually, I just passed another area that they're cleaning up right across the street from the hotel that I'm staying at. They just about an hour ago, they finished cleaning up the little shopping center over there. So it seems like they're making their rounds. They're going around where they find encampments or, and they're clearing them out. So that this one was Tuesday morning, and there was just one here about an hour ago across the street from where I am right now.
So where are the people going? Do we know?
Some of them, well, ironically, I know they told me that some people from code enforcement was telling them to go towards J or H, which is way out from here where there's nothing but land. There's no housing. There's no businesses. And they were emotional telling me this, but at the end of the day, they don't have no access to water, electricity. They stay in the communities because they have at least more quicker or better access to getting water, or food or whatnot. But they're telling them when they clear out their encampments to go way out to H. And I know you didn't have a chance to drive around out here, but it's just like I said, it's no man's land. It's just open area, and there's no way they can shower or get water, but they want them to go out there, which is pretty much get away from here, away from the community and local communities.
Was there any sort of indication that the city was going to provide services at the place that they were recommending people go to?
The gentleman I interviewed, he told me during the pandemic, they provided porta potties, hand washing facilities. And then he said the issue with that is like a days later, they were destroyed or, just not maintained.
Okay.
And I play devil advocate because I do know that there are people that, do destroy property or they don't take care of certain things, but they did provide that. So he said during the pandemic, but I said, but why hasn't it been provided now? I mean, these people have asked for a dumpster. They complain about the trash, but the city refused to give it to them because the encampment is not a residence, so they won't provide them a dumpster to dispose of, their trash or or waste. But then they get mad when it's just laying everywhere. So you have to have a residence to be able to get a dumpster.
And
So,
this has been around for a year. This has gone on at least a year where the encampment's there and they're not providing good services and they can't even get a place to store trash. Am I getting that wrong?
no, I've been out here 3 years. I've met people that's been out here since 2003.
Have you spoke to any of the homeless who were moved, or have they moved to the new
Yes,
location?
a lot of them moved across the street in the area they cleared out about a month ago. They just move around. So they went to an area they just cleaned out before that one, and then now some of them are slowly going back to the area they just cleaned out Tuesday. And I told code enforcement the same thing. I said, "Isn't this a waste of taxpayers' dollar? You clean out these encampments. As soon as you leave, a few hours later, they're right back in the same area that you had them get out of." So I mean, they're going to come back, and some of them have already slowly moved back over there, and some of them are across the street, just letting it just fizzle out a little bit. And they're going to end up going back over to the area that they just cleared out, and then whenever somebody makes another phone call, they'll go and clear it out again.
I'm just wondering if there was any indication of, we're tearing down the camps, we're ordering you to move. Was there any indication of, they said people go to this shelter, go to this location to get resources, or was it just, you got to be gone?
No one's mentioned that they've mentioned shelter. They were always told to go towards G and H, an area where there's nothing there. It's uninhabited. But I think the guy that I interviewed, he said that he's personally mentioned, like Kensington or Valley Oasis, for them to, reach out to those, organizations. But the other ones, they're just crying like they keep telling us we can't stay here, but they don't tell us where we can go. Majority of them was giving me that same comment that I've been trying to.
That's what I'm curious about. So you're removing the problem. Okay. Are you providing commensurate resources? Are you giving these people someplace to go? You don't want them here. Where are you telling them to go? It sounds like the Pharaoh ordering the Israelites to just go out into the desert, and who knows what happens to them there.
That's the point. Who knows
Okay.
what's going to happen to them?
Right. In the medieval times and under the United Nations international law, that's called banishment. And typically you don't do it to citizens. So it's sort of considered a abdication of the authority of government, breaking of the social contract. Basically, when a government no longer says we provide for our own people, they no longer have authority over those people, and they're considered a failed government according to the United Nations. So it's interesting to see that Lancaster is saying, you're gone, and we're going to provide nothing for you or help you out or tell you where to go or do anything to make it better, but we can order you what to do. The UN says technically you can't do that. You order people around, you have to provide for them. There was a guy called Saddam, and he gassed his own people called the Kurds. And the UN said, yeah, when you call your people not your people and you don't provide services for them and you put them in a bad situation, you're a bad person. It's eerily similar to what I am hearing Lancaster doing. What an incredible chance coincidence that a government here in California in the year 2021, where homelessness is this big, would say, you got to go, got to move. And we have no help or anything to provide or no services. When I interviewed the candidates on the homeless issue for the recall debate, they always said, well, we need to provide services. We need to inform them of the services. That seemed to be a universal answer for everybody that seemed fairly acceptable. Sounds like Lancaster is not doing that, from what I can tell.
I think for the most part, no. The gentleman that I spoke with, he did seem genuine. He actually knew a couple of them out here by name because he's have been cleaning out these encampments. But yeah, to tell someone to go out in the middle of nowhere where there's no access to, they're far away from people, from existence, from communities.
Yeah.
and they're telling them to just go out there in the middle of nowhere. And like Frank, the last guy I interviewed, said it perfectly. Not that I'm discrediting the eviction moratorium. He's saying that, they're extending the rights, and protecting these people who are about to lose their houses, and keeping, and making extensions for them, but they're not providing housing or homes. They're taking us from our houses, from what we call home, where we survive. And he had a valid point. Just because housing is housing, whether it's in a tent, a hut, a house, apartment. If that's where you reside, where you lay your head majority of the time, that's your home. And like you said, they're extending these eviction moratoriums, for they won't be kicked out of their homes, but they're taking these people's homes away from them, where they're already pretty much unhoused, but they're only closest thing to home for them. It's like they already don't have anywhere to go. They're being told to keep going somewhere else. So where else is where else, and where else is where else? Where do we go?
I don't know. And it sounds like the government doesn't know either. LA County is the one that got the big homeless population. Lancaster still, I believe, within the LA County limits. And Governor Newsom, did one of his housing clearances, I think, and it was in the LA region for the rap video. So it's not like he doesn't know what's going on there. It's not like he's not aware of where the epicenter of the problem is. And I just find it hard to believe that all these homeless camps are being removed and cleaned up at the same time and pushed out, and Newsom has no idea what's going on at all.
Well, especially that frequent. We just had one Tuesday morning, and I saw one today, and there's no telling which ones I haven't. Remember, I just had my procedure yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm slurring and I'm moving around because I'm sore. But this was Tuesday morning, and I just saw one across the street a little over an hour ago. So who's to say where else they were cleaning out in between?
Right.
I haven't seen it that back to back like that. Usually I'll see one over there, but that's the only place I've been seeing them clear out the encampments, because they're mostly always in that one. They all flock back to that same area because of the tunnels.
Right. And this is right after the article about how the governor's releasing $2.5 billion or something to deal with homelessness. So he's running around saying, look, I'm spending all this money to fix homelessness. And that sounds good. But at the same time, coincidentally, no, we don't have the smoking gun or the white glove with the dust on it, but all these homeless encampments are being shut down and people moved out. So is this the mass plan to deal with the homeless issue? I mean, the governor was ranked very poorly on this issue, and he just survived a recall. I could see where political acumen would say, you need to fix this last bastion that you can. And while maybe he's not actually going to fix it because he couldn't do it in a year and a half, and he mismanaged COVID-19 funding, which exacerbated the problem, and yes, that's admitted, not by a Fox News station, maybe he doesn't know what to do. Maybe he can't fix it. And so the idea would be, you make it look like you are. See, I released $2.5 billion, and you can't see homeless anywhere. Must be fixed. And voters will buy it, unfortunately. I don't know that's what's going on, but I find it coincidental that he's releasing a gigantic budget, which will make everybody think that he's doing something. And then at the same time, these camps are being removed. So if you're the average low information voter, you're going to see, governor released a bunch of money to fix homelessness. Oh, there's no homelessness. That must be fixed. Because I don't see the homeless in my community anymore. I don't see the encampments. Therefore, it must not be an issue.
Wow.
And I don't take the time to go, well, where did they go? How was that money spent? What did it go to? Does that actually work? I mean, when we talk to people about this issue, homelessness is one of the worst issues the governor does on, and almost nobody was aware that they did an audit and showed that he mismanaged COVID-19 federal relief, and that created more homelessness. I mean, almost no one knows that. So it's a low information time. I wouldn't be surprised this is the strategy. Again, that's just my opinion. I don't know that that's true, but I'll just leave it there.
Know. Did you see the recent, I just saw on Yahoo where he just passed some legislations for homelessness. And what pissed me off, I try not to cuss, what pissed me off when I read the article.
This is for kids.
He was mentioning how this takes time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's just even just revert back to him. You've been in this office for 1.5, 2 years. Okay, I will give you 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You committed over $10 billion during your candidacy as governor. and homelessness has more than quadrupled just in 2 years. Just in 2 years. So my thing is, make it make sense to me, or explain it to me like I'm five. You've committed billions of dollars and it's gotten worse. You just recently, I think yesterday or within this week, you're passing laws for homelessness, but what is that doing?
That's the question. Let me pull up that article right now.
Yes, please. I don't want to be on my phone online.
No, here, we'll do a stream here. So I'm going to share screen. 1 second here. Go here, do this, share.
We need to give it. These things take time. I mean, homelessness is not new. Yeah, like we just started experiencing homelessness. It takes time. It does not take that much time. We have the funding to end homelessness. How much time do you need?
So he said, here's the thing. This is from Ms. Reynolds, and she was talking about the state budget has already committed $12 billion for homelessness over the next 2 years. But then Gavin Newsom says, I'm going to do even more. California spent $2.4 billion of state and federal money on a handful of major homeless programs, with most of them going to local governments. The programs have had success, but have little to do with changing the public.
But what do you mean by I'm going to do more? That is so freaking vague to me. I'm going to do more. But that's
right.
vague.
And this is what Quinn's talking about. When it comes to these issues, it takes years and years to see results. But here's the thing.
How long has homelessness been around?
Right. And how long has he been governor? So he's the re-election is about a year away, which means he's been governor for a couple years. If you're saying it takes years and years to get results, how come you don't have results when you've been in power that long? It's not like you said, homelessness was an issue before he got into office. It was well known back then. So Governor Newsom, if you knew homelessness was an issue before you got into office, like everybody did, you couldn't plan ahead for when you're in office? I know you have contacts. I know as the lieutenant governor, you had access to every aspect of the California government. Secondly, you've been governor for about 2 years. So when you say it takes years and years to get results, how come those results aren't here already right now when you've been in office that long? Am I getting this wrong, Quinn? Are these not fair questions?
No, and what are you doing right now to actually combat the issue?
Yeah.
I've met with different people over the past weekend that I have a plan. I've been reaching out to Governor Newsom. I mean, if you watch this, I'm definitely willing to let you know how you can end this if you're open to and you really want to end it. It can be ended. It can be resolved. It's just the person has to want to do it. That's what it boils down to. You have to want to end it. I mean, if I got to call him out on that, I'm gonna call him out on it. You have to want to do it.
I'm wondering what it is. It's been an issue for years. It goes. I mean, when we were coming out of the recession in 2013, they were already talking about the homeless issue going crazy because the property values rose as we got out of the recession. He was lieutenant governor. He knew the situation before he was in office. He had to study it. He had to follow it. And then he's been governor for a few years, and we don't have anything on that. And this is the third most important issue to Californians. And nobody in California thinks that he's doing a good job on that, even the people who voted for him in the recall. So I find it curious that all of a sudden passes recall election. And it's like, hey, folks, I'm spending all this extra money. And suddenly all these camps are being torn down. It sounds like a bait and switch. Look over here. Don't look here. Look over here.
Basically, a decoy.
Now over here. Look over here. Mm-hmm. Okay, problem fixed. Do you see homelessness? Not in my neighborhood. Then it must be all fixed. Right? The voters are not going to take the time to dig through the audits and read the legislative affairs report for the effectiveness. I mean, most voters weren't even aware that NPR pointed out how horribly the governor mismanaged funds on homelessness before the election. That article came out, and then it was not picked up by any other news source. And when I brought it up to people, they go, oh, is that Fox News who said that? Like, no, that was the official government said that. So I know the difference. And got nowhere. Nobody knew anything about it. Third most important issue, managed to stay away from the voters. So it was a trick That should have damaged him very poorly, that he knowingly mismanaged funds, exacerbated the problem, and it was one of the top issues in California, and almost nobody knew about it. So I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I would not be surprised if that's what they're attempting to do, given that if they tried it before, it worked, and why not go for it some more? We are one of the.
Can we? I don't know if you because you did at your little research. I know when I saw articles on Villanueva how they cleared out Venice, they always claim that they've found 90 people homes or housing, but they never say where they found the housing at. Like you said, how do you? Okay, you're saying you found housing for the homeless people that you cleared out, but where were they housed? They don't disclose that. And then on top of that, Project Room Key ended, I think, the end of July or August. My thing is that should have remained open until we were in the clear. Everybody keeps trying to shut, we keep doing this back and forth with COVID and the Delta variant. Why don't you guys stick to it until we're in the clear? Because it's too much back and forth. So people now don't have access to Project Room Key. And even with Project Room Key, it was a private disclosed area. You can only get into it. You have to be referred through like a healthcare provider, a social worker, or law enforcement. But they're private locations. Only those three people, healthcare, social workers, law enforcement, are the ones that can refer you to Project Room Key, even though it's closed now. But I just feel like with Governor saying he's making these laws and he's doing all this, why don't you reopen Project Room Key and get all these people in housing? I remember one of our other meetings where you were talking about how they house all the immigrants, over 40,000 immigrants or something. They spent millions in putting all of them from on the border in hotels, but yet they can't do that for the homeless people.
Right, and why, especially knowing that the eviction moratorium failed, and people are going to be facing even more evictions, and that the housing
7 million.
Right, so that just failed. Federal government failed to provide for us. That was with Democrats in charge, not taking sides, but just recognize the facts. That was your famous Democrats totally failed to protect the people, as harsh as Donald Trump would do. Just saying, facts are facts. And then what we have is the governor, okay, so we have the worst homeless crisis because the prices are so high and a lot of people are going to be evicted. And what's your plan to limit the amount of increased homelessness? Well, he cut a $500 stimulus check to people, but the average rent's about $1,500. So
no, it's higher than that.
Yeah. So how is $500 when people are going to be unable to pay their rent, and you live in the highest priced real estate market in America, going to help? You, as the governor, released those checks. You chose to not make them $1,500 to $2,000, but $500. You are the one saying that there's such a gigantic $1 billion surplus. So how come you couldn't provide where the federal government failed to the amount needed to keep people from exacerbating the problem? It's almost like you're not trying to fix the problem, you're just trying to be seen as. I can't prove that, but Quinn, am I getting this wrong? What do you think?
No, I mean, it's the gesture. They're just gestures. And they stopped unemployment too as of September 4th.
Yeah. So
and they just said that unemployment rate skyrocketed again. It's just there's no certainty until this COVID is clear. They need to make sure people are able to sustain housing, send out the funding so people that aren't employed or employed can try to have some sense of survival. It's just, I just feel that the people that are regulating everything, they don't have any empathy or compassion to people that are struggling. They just want to point fingers. Well, it's your problem that you're poor. It's your problem that you're homeless.
I mean, the guy went to the French Laundry when he told everybody else not to go out. And it's the most expensive restaurant in all of California. And he took his family without masks. That's a fact, after he'd ordered all of us not to do it. Now, maybe you can think that's incidental or whatever, but it is a point. And his aunt, famously did that interview where she said, I love the pandemic because I get to eat Italian-made ice cream that's flown into my house. So it's great for me. And people were saying, I'm not going to be able to pay rent. I don't even have the money for this Italian ice cream. So when the aunt says something so tone deaf for the way that people are dealing with, and by the way, she withheld the stimulus money in December, as she admitted, so that Donald Trump would lose. Now, maybe you might think that's the right thing, but that was her saying people are going to go homeless in California for Christmas. because the stimulus check will not come in time. I personally know people who had the worst Christmas of their life and were forced into homelessness because of Pelosi's decision. Now, maybe you think Trump's an existential threat, and that was the thing, but let's add this up. She goes on TV and says, I think the pandemic's great because I could eat Italian-made ice cream. Then she withholds money to people so they can have the worst homeless Christmas ever. And then her nephew goes to a restaurant that's the most expensive one in all of California, violating the rules that he just told us. Those are all facts. Now, maybe you think the Republicans are horrible. Donald Trump is, Satan incarnate. Fine, but these things also happen. And when we look at that and we add up the fact that COVID-19 money was mismanaged, fact, leading to homelessness, the stimulus checks released by Governor Newsom are not enough, knowing that there's the eviction moratorium is ended and the unemployment insurance is coming to an end. And you're talking about how California can pick up the slack with a $70 billion excess budget, and yet you can only give out $500 checks? Interesting.
And they haven't even went out. I haven't got mine.
So
it's supposed to go out 45 days after you file, within 45 days. And then they said September, and I called to check on mine. It hasn't been issued yet. And my thing is, you're not even doing things in a timely manner. When you're saying that, you're not even sticking to your own commitment. You're saying you're going to have these within 45 days or by this time. And they move slow when it comes to homelessness. Very slow. They move how they want to move and when they want to move. And it's not just the government, it's people too. People were driving by that day laughing at the homeless people when they saw they had all their stuff out there. I don't know if you saw the pictures with their stuff on the sidewalks and everything. People were literally driving by with their phones out the window and laughing and saying, put them in the trash too. Making just ignorant comments and remarks. And these people are crying, broken down. Some people have kids. I mean, you can't get any more inhumane than that. You can't.
So what Quinn's talking about was when they were removing the homeless in Lancaster, people would drive by and cheer it on.
Yep.
You have people who have nothing.
Laughing.
Literally at the end, they're crying, they're distraught, their home's being destroyed, and other humans drove by and laughed and said, good. And that's where we're at as a society in California. And I wonder why the homeless issue is that bad. Maybe it's because people are that caustic and insensitive. Perhaps that's how we got here. Perhaps the insensitivity to the homeless is why we reelect a governor who mismanaged COVID-19 funds in exacerbating homeless issue, and we're not even informed or care. Again, no smoking gun, but a lot of interesting facts that seem to add up of a picture of a state that acts like it cares when it actually does nothing to improve the situation and celebrates a leader who failed to do his job.
Yep. I just sent you something. If you can load that up for they can see that, because this is very emotional and I think it's important. Someone shared that with me when they were down there at Skid Row where the cops were actually destroying and kicking these people out. The comments, and I had actually get tagged on it, but they didn't want to tag me on it because they know my mouth. But they were making comments, all you need to do is put them in a trash with the rest of the stuff where they belong. Did you get my text?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
I want it so bad to be tagged in that post so I can humble some people. But when I saw that, I literally fell to my knees. And the sad thing is, people will not get it or care until it affects them directly. You know how they say sometimes it takes you to get knocked down to humble yourself? It's I don't even know what to say.
Here's what Quinn's talking about. So, Quinn, can you see that?
Yeah.
Y'all hate homeless people so much it shows. We need empathy. They have options. They just don't want them. Needs to happen more often. Yeah, no, these are human beings who have no options. Showing off their stuff doesn't make them stop throwing out their stuff doesn't make them stop existing. Literally, yes. It doesn't, but that's the plan. If you don't see them, it's not an issue. Throwing out their stuff makes it go away. They have options. They just don't want them. removing these people needs to happen more often. So that's a firefighter or hot fire Bill's bone. So that's some of the questions, comments, and this matches up with what Quinn was talking about, where she was literally there and people are crying and distraught and they're losing everything.
Yeah, I try to find that comment where a guy literally said, all I need to do is put them in the trash with the rest. I have so many texts, and some of them I was just mad and I deleted them because I was trying to get tagged on it so I can, get in that conversation. One guy made a comment, put them in the trash, because they're throwing away like their stuff. They said, all you need to do is put them in there with it, considering them trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a place called Warsaw in World War II. And there was a group of people called the Third Reich. And they had the intention to put all the Jews into a certain ghetto in Warsaw because they saw them as trash too. And the people of the Warsaw city said, oh, is there horrible living conditions there? That's not because we made it. It's because they're Jewish people and they're trash. So let's just throw more of them. And it was the dehumanification of humans that allowed the Nazis to do everything that they did. And so when I see other people referring to other humans as trash, this is the path we walk to where people end up in camps and dead. Now, I know we're not there yet, but when you are saying, hey, we don't have camps yet, but when you're saying those human beings are trash, throw them in the trash, and you're creating a category of humans and saying all of them in this category are garbage, that's called othering. It's a sociological term, and it's basically what the Nazis did. Now, I understand we're not looking at ethnic groups, but maybe we are a little bit, because most of the homeless have brown skin, like you and me, and most of the unhomeless don't have brown skin, like you and me. So maybe there's a little something there, maybe there's not. But when we start seeing people saying other humans are trash, throw them in the garbage, it always throughout human history goes to a horrible, horrible place full of inhumanity and massive suffering on scales never before seen. I hope we're not following that similar road, although people are creatures of habit, and history never repeats itself, but it always rhymes, I believe is the phrase.
I've always heard history always repeats itself.
Well, there's different takes. So, last minute comments, anything we missed here?
No, I would love for you, myself, and Veronica to get on a meeting with Governor Newsom.
Okay.
Put him on the spot. Let's hold him accountable. We'll definitely give him our support. He's saying this takes time. I mean, I don't know how much time you need, but between all of us, I mean, it can get done. And I hope he gets wind that, some people have some things to say about him and he looks into it, and hopefully he'll reach out. I'd love for us to be able to, to have a meeting with him and help him resolve this. Because I don't care who's in office. Like I told you, I mean, you know how I am. I've told everyone, you don't have to be governor to help people. You're already qualified. You're human. Yeah. You do not have to be a governor, the president, any political affiliation to help people. This affects all of us one way or the other, whether it's directly or indirectly. And we need to take care of it. Like Fuji mentioned to me, a little speech that he had that I love, and now after witnessing how these people are tearing down their homes and the reactions and the emotions behind it, these people are at war. They're at war for survival. You have to fight to survive. People are like, they want to live. I said, this is not living. This is surviving. There's a difference between living and surviving, and they're not getting it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop there. Let's meet again. We'll go over your homeless plan, but I needed to make sure this information got out. So I don't really know what to say at this moment. It's really kind of unpleasant. I don't have anything positive or cheery or some plan of action. We will stay committed to covering this topic and working with you as long as it takes, although I don't know. So let's just end it there. Not a super happy episode, but important information, something that people need to know, and we are dedicated to bring that to you here at Yes. Thanks, Quinn.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. truly, truly a sad, sad moment. And really, this is beneath us as Californians. I understand that we have highly liberal policies and that people come from out of state and take advantage of us, and that the American government does too by not giving us our McKinney-Vento funding. But we're starting to turn into bad people with the way that we see fellow Californians on this. And it is not of our values to do that.